Hi, I'm Kate and welcome to my channel. So today's video is my next installment of my monthly palette use, and we are looking at the month of June. So in the month of June, I used 17 different palettes and a wide variety of looks. So if you're curious to watch my other videos, I did do a palette usage for the month of April and May. So this is the third month that I'm doing this. The purpose for me doing this is to really keep track of what I'm using and not using in my collection to really help me with declutters and things that I don't need to bring into my collection. It's mostly just for my own use, but I hope you enjoy it. So I'm gonna start with the palettes that I only used once this month and then work my way up. I think I have one palette that I used 5 times this month, so that'll be the last one that I share. So let's dive right in. The first one that I'm gonna share, I'm actually sharing 2 at the same time because I used these 2 together to create one look, and I used them each only one time this month. So I combined the Colourpop She's a Rainbow with the Shroud Creepy Cute. So this is actually just a collection of singles from Colourpop, but it comes in this set as She's a Rainbow. And then the Creepy Cute, of course, is beautiful pastel shadows, all mattes. The look that I created with these was like a rainbow flower and butterfly look. I will post looks up here. I had a group of 5th grade girls, I'm a teacher, that have been asking me to do a rainbow look for 2 years straight. So on the last day of school, I went all out and I did it. So this was the look that I used these 2 palettes for. Next up for one use palettes, I used the Huda Beauty Nude Light palette one time. So this is a really beautiful kind of springy nude palette. I used this to create kind of just a simple mauve-y look. I really enjoy this palette, but I used it once. Another one-use palette from Huda is the Neon Orange. Now, I have had the neon palettes for a while and I haven't really dived into them. This is for sure my favorite of them. I really enjoy the look that I created. It ended up very bright and bold, mostly matte. I did layer a couple of the shimmers. The shimmers are okay, but the mattes performed really beautifully, so definitely something I will dive into more, hopefully this summer. I used the Juvia's Place Nubian Earth palette one time this month. This is a beautiful neutral palette. This is one of the newer palettes from Juvia's Place. It is a pretty basic palette, but this shimmer right here is really beautiful and sparkly, and I think it makes the whole palette worth it. So this is a beautiful nude palette. I'll definitely be traveling with this, hopefully coming up soon here, but I used this once. Next up is the Black Moxie Boundless Bloom palette. I used this one time this month, and I created a really pretty like iridescent purple look that I really enjoyed. I really love this palette. It's super rich and pigmented. The shimmers in here are great. I mean, I love Black Moxie products in general, but I think this is the only Black Moxie palette I used this month, and I used it once. I used the Nomad America's Parks palette one time, and I did a very like bronzy neutral on the lid with kind of a tealy green lower lash line. I really enjoyed. I think this palette is currently on sale right now, at least as of filming this video. I don't know if it'll still be going on, but this is definitely one of my favorites from Nomad. I love the choices of mattes in this palette. I love the shimmers in this palette. This is a great one. All right, we're still going with the one-time use palettes. So I did a look with the Colourpop Garden Variety palette. I did a very like peachy orange look with this palette, kind of matched it with an orange lip. I do really love this palette. I don't think it's very exciting, but if you're wanting just a very neutral, simple look with a couple pretty pops of color, I think this is a really beautiful one. All right, this next one was just me attempting to use things that I don't really pull for. So I did use the I Heart Revolution Tasty Peach palette one time this month. Now the shadows in this palette perform beautifully. I think I've just realized that these are not my colors. So I did a very pinky look with this palette. I did not love it. I think this is definitely one that will be on the chopping block for me for my next declutter. Like I said, it performs great, but it's just not my colors. From ABH, I have the Norvina Volume 4, and I used this one time. I did a very pinky yellow look with this palette. I did use both of the glitters as well in my look. I really enjoy this palette. I don't have any of the other big Norvina palettes. I have one mini that's also really nice. The quality in these is fantastic, but they are really big. So if you're not a big fan of like the big and bulky palettes, it's probably not for you, but I really enjoy this one too. All right, one of my newer favorites from Glaminatrix, this is the Nocturnal palette, and I used this one time this month. I did a really bluey green look with this. Not my favorite look that I've created with this palette. I definitely like the other looks I've done more, but it was kind of like a rushed makeup day for me. Definitely one that I will continue to dive into. Last month, this was like at the top for usage. This is a beautiful palette, and I love it. I also use the Glamlight and Michaela palette. This is the first one. The second one, I don't know when this video will come out, but it's dropping, I think, on July 2nd. I'm definitely eyeing the collection. I used this one time this month for like a greeny blue purple look. I topped it with some of the new black boxy shimmers. I still love this palette. I'm excited to see if I pick up the second one. I'm kind of on the fence right now, but the qualities, anything like this, it's gonna be fantastic. And my last one-time use palette to share is the Nomad Paradise Islands palette. This might be my favorite look of the month. I just love how it turned out. I love how the colors blended together. I mentioned this in other videos. This is not a palette that initially called for me, so I did not buy it on the launch, but I did get it for my birthday from my sister, and it has quickly become one of my favorite palettes. So I did use this one time, and I love the look that I created with it. All right, this next palette I used 2 times this month. One time is the look on my eyes today. Today is June 30th, so it's the Moira Garden on My Mind palette, just the perfect neon palette. This is fantastic. These neons do take a little building up, so for today's look, I went like yellow, green, and blue, and I did dip into a deeper teal to just kind of deepen the outer corner, and I popped a Davina Halo Moon shimmer on top. I love this palette. I did another neon look this month with it. That was just like a really bright cut crease look that I really enjoyed, but this is one of my favorite neon options that I have. All right, the next 2 palettes I used 4 times each. So first up is from Blend Bunny. This is the Surge palette. I used this 4 times this month. I think I did kind of an orangey look and then kind of a pink look. I did a black and blue look, and then I did a collaboration with my friend Stephen Ford using this palette. So I will link his video down below too, and mine. We did a palette bingo with this palette, which was really fun. So I dipped into this 4 times. I think this ends up being near the top every month. I don't see that changing anytime soon either. All right, my other 4-time use palette is not a traditional palette. It is the custom palette that I made for the month of June. So I've been doing custom palettes for the last few months. May's was very springy and soft. June's is very rainbow and bright. It might be washed out a little bit on the camera. The shimmers in here are really fun. I have a Davina shimmer, a Glaminatrix shimmer, and 2 of the new Black Moxie shimmers. The mattes, I believe, are all Terra Moons in this palette. I was obsessed with this. I did use it 4 times. A couple of the looks came out pretty similar. Surprisingly, I did not do any full-on rainbow looks with this, which this palette really lends itself to. But I'm excited to put together my July palette. I'm not quite sure what direction I'm going to go, so we'll see. But I really enjoyed this month's, so I did use it 4 times. And the palette that I used the most this month is the Cosmic Brushes Serenity palette. I used this 5 times this month. I think 3 of those looks were in my video, but this is beautiful. I really enjoy this palette. There's so many different directions you can go. I did mostly pretty colorful looks, and I did one sultry neutral look because there are a couple neutral shades, a gold shimmer in there. This is fantastic. This is my first try of the brand, and I'm really glad that I picked this up. It's super affordable too. It was like maybe $25, which for a palette this size and this quality is really great value. So I used this 5 times. So those are all the palettes that I used for the month of June. I feel like a lot of them get repeated month to month, like my favorites. It's hard to not use them if there's something that I'm really enjoying, but to me that's the purpose of makeup, is to use what I'm enjoying, so I'm not mad at myself for it. I do try to make a point to dip into things that I haven't dipped into, just to see if it's something that I'm going to want to hold on to or if I'm ready to let it go. So I think with this month I discovered at least one thing that I'm ready to let go at my next declutter, but we'll see what happens next month. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.